My name is Scott Kiser. This is my wife, Karla. We've been going to Eagles View here about 13 years. And I had an accident February 27th this year. I worked for Frito-Lay. I was at a convenience store, and I fainted or passed out, fell and cracked my skull, and cracked it pretty good.
I woke up on a Saturday morning about 5 o'clock in the morning, and I heard audible words, "Call Scott." So I picked up the phone and called him, and he didn't answer the phone. I'm like, what's up with that? And so I hung up the phone, and about a minute later, he calls back. And it wasn't Scott on the other line. It was a paramedic. His name was Chris. And he said, "I'm here with your husband. Your husband's been in an accident." And I started to question that. I said, "Well, what kind of a car accident? Like, what happened?" He said, "Well, no." He said, "He's fallen and he's hitting his head." And he said, "We need to take him to the hospital." I said, "Okay, well, I'll meet you at Harris," And I grabbed my keys and grabbed my purse and put on some shoes and headed to the hospital, thinking, great, my Saturday's ruined, and I'm going to have to get him. He's going to get some stitches and we're going to come home. And when I got to the hospital and saw him lying there in the emergency room, he had a C-collar on. He was conscious, wasn't really talking. They had already done a CT, which was a scan on his head, and a neurosurgeon comes into the room and starts talking to me about the injury, about the brain bleed that was going on, about the crack in the skull. He actually even told me if the crack had been over a little bit further, I think he used the word like a millimeter over, he said this would have been catastrophic. He explained to me that there was significant bleeding happening and that he was on standby. Him and his team were going to be on standby. They were going to have to possibly remove part of his skull to be able to relieve that pressure from the bleeding. And I had to sit down. And I realized that this was serious. They wanted to take him back for another CT. And throughout that morning, he had like 7 CTs about every couple hours. The brain bleeding was getting worse. And at that moment, I realized that this was big. This was life-changing. I began to reach out on Facebook. I needed people to pray for him, for me, for the doctors, for the nurses. And from that moment on, I heard from God again, stay here. Don't leave his side.
The road to recovery was hard and long. It took 5 months to get me to where I am today, to go back to work and be able to, talk and walk and work and eat and everything else, because I had to retrain my brain to do everything after that.
He's definitely a walking miracle. The power of prayer and being patient, that's been hard. Mm-hmm. I wanted him to get better right away, but through this journey, it's brought us closer together. It's brought, I think, people closer to God that maybe didn't even know Scott or didn't even know me, but that would pray for us.
Prayer works in any situation in life. As long as people are praying for you, praying to God for any situation of job, health, any circumstances, that God will answer your prayer. Look at me today.
I believe God was able to bring people closer to God just through Scott's injury that maybe didn't even know Scott, but they knew me. So that was something really cool to see, that people were praying that maybe normally wouldn't pray.
Well, I have people come up to me that I don't even know and say, "I've been praying for you." And I always say, "Thank you, for praying for me, because I wouldn't be here today without the prayer."
He answers prayers, and this time he answered prayers the way we wanted them to be answered. I know that doesn't always happen, but you're a miracle.